to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And now, Reverend Poole, if you would lead us in the invocation.
Our Father, which art in heaven, we want to thank you, Lord, for another opportunity to come together as a board, to come together to help our town, to help our people, to help society. Let us be an example to others, that we may love one another, and we may be peaceful in the name of Jesus. Lord, we ask that you will continue to bless each one of the councilmen and the mayor and our town manager. Help us to organize. Help us to do the right thing. In the name of Jesus, we pray. Amen.
Amen. And please be seated. And you've all had a chance to review the minutes of the May 26th meeting. At this time, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved, Mayor.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. All right, we'll jump right into our committee meetings. And the first one is the Administrative Committee, and that is chaired by Councilman High.
Thank you, Mayor Stallings. The committee has two items to present tonight. The first one is that it is recommended that we approve the agreement with Strategic Communication Marketing Services as presented. We had a nice presentation by Tyler Bream at our last meeting, and he certainly brings a lot of enthusiasm and a different expertise than I know a lot of us sitting around this table have. And it was brought forward with the recommendation that we approve that. I would place that in the form of a motion that we so approve it.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
I have one question, Mayor, if I could, related to that. Last week, Councilman Miller asked if Tyler had met with realtors to get any feedback from the realtors on what they were seeing in terms both of what people were looking for in terms of moving to town and how they heard about it. It was not a real clear answer. And I'd like to, if some way, if we could suggest that Tyler might meet with Mary Scott and John Dale. I contacted both of those. They've had little relationship with the program. And I think they could be a big help to Tyler, and he could be a help to them also, if that's a fair addition here.
Fair enough, yes. I think that's something we can handle administratively. Is that correct, Ms. Knight?
Yes. And we'll make sure that Tyler touch base with all
Sometimes you get wrapped up in the
all the
number of
realtors,
kids,
yeah.
and you lose sight of people, so it's fun.
Were there any other comments? The next item for consideration is we had the opportunity at our last meeting to review the Code of Ordinances to update the minimum housing standards. And if anybody has had any more questions than what we had at the last meeting, it comes before full council on the recommendation of the Administrative Committee that we approve those recommended changes. And I'd place that in the form of a motion also, Mayor Stallings.
Second, Mayor.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
I just go ahead.
I just wanted to see if it'd be okay to call on Saoirse, because she has prepared some educational materials so that we can help educate people about the code.
Yeah, that would be great, and then we can address the concerns and comments of council.
Well, that was part of my, I just wanted to say thank you, Saoirse, for all the work, hard work you put into this particular project, which is one of many projects you've been working on since you've been here this past year, and we are going to miss you. But thank you for all the time you put in on this minimum housing standards.
Thank you, Councilman. It's been my pleasure.
Saoirse, do you mind just briefly talking about some of the plans for educating the community about this major upgrade?
Yeah, absolutely. So as I kind of talked about in my presentation at our last meeting as the phase 4 of this project, is to make sure that our community is able to benefit in the way that this ordinance is intending. And so to do that, I am working on making a flyer, and perhaps several flyers, to really go through each section of our code and of the new code and describe what the changes are and kind of how that applies to our community. And along with that, we're working on educational things that are not just confined to what Edenton specifically does, but also we'll be able to let our residents of Edenton know what state protections they have and what resources they have in those ways. And those will be ready to distribute to the public so that this is something that everyone has access to and awareness of.
Thank you, Saoirse.
Any further discussion on this matter? We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, Hack. Okay, the next on the agenda is the Finance Committee, and that is chaired by Councilman Dixon.
So we have two things on. The first is recommended that the council approve the North Carolina Department of Commerce Building Reuse Grant Agreement for Nebraska Plastics. That we went through that in detail at our last meeting, so I'll put that in the form of a motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Are they hiring now? Do you know?
They are.
Signs are
Okay,
out.
signs are out.
Good.
Yeah, they got a ton of signs out there on the road.
Yeah.
Great.
Okay, if there's no further discussion, all those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Second thing on is a review of the proposed budget. Are you going to take that, Anne Marie?
I will.
Yeah.
I will be distributing the budget to you all, the proposed budget, tomorrow. It's been quite a challenge trying to accurately estimate the impacts on our revenues, as we have talked before, due to COVID and the economic changes. But I am pleased to report that the general fund, as proposed, is balanced without a tax increase. The tax increase will remain the same, and that we are not recommending any appropriation of fund balance. So we're not saying take money out of savings to help fund operations going forward. And I did want to point out that we did see some growth in the tax base this year, which you recall last year it decreased because of the closing of the Simpson Strong. But the tax assessor pointed out that the increase from the investment that Taco Bell has made added, and then some other increases, but we were able to add almost $115,000 in new tax dollars without having to raise taxes. And based on the budget, 1 penny, 1 cent generates about $50,000. And so $115,000 is almost, is over 2 cents on your tax rate. So there are some new initiatives. I think the most significant one is from your proposed 2020 vision statement, which you asked to include funding for setting up a human relations commission. And so we have included funding for that. In the electric fund, I'm pleased to report no rate increase. We have budgeted for a slightly lower collection rate due to the governor's order regarding non-disconnects, but I have to tell you that so far our collection rates are much better than what we're hearing from our peers in other utilities. So I'm proud of our customers for continuing to meet their obligation. We do also have included in the electric fund a number of strategic upgrades to the system that our new director has recommended, and so when we review the budget with the Finance Committee, Mike can review those with you. But again, in the electric fund, as was in the general fund, no use of appropriated fund balance. So you're going to be able to fund increases to the system to make the system more reliable without having to dip into reserves. And I think that's something that should be noted. The water and sewer fund is balanced. However, that did require rate increase, and one was planned, the debt service payment for the 2 water treatment plants, but then also just to fund some other infrastructure repair, a lot of pumps, a lot of lift stations, quarries identified that need work. So we'll review that with the Finance Committee. But overall, I hope you'll be pleased. But again, we are trying to be conservative with our revenues. We should know more based on actuals in the middle of June due to some sales tax money coming in. So stay tuned. But we look forward to reviewing it with you. It will be posted online hopefully tomorrow so that the residents can review it. And we're looking to hold a public hearing as best we can under COVID on June 22nd at your committee meeting, Monday the 22nd. So we'll get with the Finance Committee soon.
Thank you, Anne Marie. Excuse me. And all of that is great news that we're not having any increases in this type of thing. So that is very good.
I think that's it for the Finance Committee.
Okay, all right. Now we'll go to item 6, which is new business, and resolution authorizing upset bid process for the sale of the 304 East Church Street. And I believe Saoirse is going to take lead on that.
Yes, Mayor, thank you so much. So this is super exciting. We have a second bid, or this is the second opportunity that Town Council has to begin the upset bid process. And so we're really, really excited about that. This is for 304 East Church Street. And Mr. Dawson Bryan of Down East Preservation has submitted a bid for this property. The bid is in the amount of $8,000, and if you approve the bid today, this would be published in the June 18th edition of the paper, and then this would remain open for 10 days. And at 5 p.m. on June 29th, that's a Monday, we would open all, if any of the bids received, and either begin the process again or accept the bid as presented to you this evening.
Okay, thank you, Saoirse. Does this need any action at this time?
It does. We ask that you adopt the resolution, and then we can proceed with the process.
Okay. I'll ask for a motion then to proceed.
Mayor, I move that we adopt the resolution.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Could I say one thing? I think it's very exciting to see that the policies that we've put into place are working. So if these houses, which have been vacant for, a generation, all been blighted with, stray cats and everything else, that the neighbors around there are going to soon enjoy a new neighbor, and somebody's going to put money into and restore that, which will increase our tax base. And I think that's exactly what our intent was. I think it's just so exciting that probably the most important structure in the African American community, the Hannibal Badham House, is, there was an article in the paper about it. It's getting restored, and those actions are direct result of our policies. And I think that it's just really exciting. So to see all those hammers swinging and these buildings.
Especially there on East Church.
Yeah.
East Church Street area. I see a change going on.
Yeah.
That particular house, is that one of the older houses in the community?
I am
The East Church Street?
Yeah. That particular, the 304 East Church, is that one of our older? Just wondering, it's,
I think that's the double house that that Winston-Salem State owns.
Okay.
Yeah, that was donated, but
Okay.
but it's not like anybody's being displaced. I mean, these
No.
houses were totally empty, and
Right.
what's so great is they're getting fixed up. So,
people move into them,
Yeah.
starting a new life.
right.
And Dawson does such a great job.
He does.
On all the property that he
He
restores.
does.
I mean,
It's out,
I'm in awe of that, what he's done down there on
Yep.
the corner of Church and Oakham Street. That's
beautiful.
beautiful, absolutely.
And I would like to add as well that there's been significant interest in the other properties that we are looking at in our redevelopment zones. So these are the two that, we are able to be in the upset bid process at this moment. But there is significant interest in the other properties, and I'm really looking forward to bringing some more resolutions before you all.
Great. And Elizabeth, I see you up there. Thanks to Elizabeth Bryant for all her hard work with this too. So,
And Larry is doing a lot of work on the Bantam House.
Yeah.
He's working on it just about every day, so would be absolutely horrible to see that house go.
yeah, that's
down.
just a landmark.
Yeah, it absolutely is.
And Sambo, if you can, or Councilman Dixon, I'm sorry, can you review for us really quickly, I know you've done it in the past, the historical significance of the Hannibal Bantam house?
So the Bantam family were builders early in the 19th century, and so they got wealthy enough to build some of the biggest structures in town, and they built almost everything up and down East Gale Street and East Church Street, including they built Kadesh. They were really involved in Kadesh, and Kadesh is the place that the Israelites stayed overnight when they came out of slavery. That's how they named that. But all that really cool vernacular architecture is all really a great tribute to a father and a son and a grandson that for 3 generations worked on incredible buildings all over the county, but also built themselves big houses, and they were getting ready to be lost. I mean, this stuff was getting ready to be gone, and all of a sudden, because of the policies that this town put in place, they're going to survive. And Anne Marie and I were just talking. I want to make sure that we try to mark all of those houses with historic signs, like the white ones, because they're all very important. And I hope that we can reach out to whoever does that and get them to start, showing the significance of that neighborhood.
Right.
So, but I'm just couldn't be happier about it. I think it's really a miracle, to tell you the truth, that all this is happening.
Did we vote on that?
I wonder if other communities are following suit.
I don't know. We're gonna be if this thing keeps on going like it is, we're gonna be an example of how to do it.
Good.
Elizabeth, do you mind telling the council what Dale Holland told you? I need to unmute.
So at our consultants, first, good evening, everybody. Hello. I apologize for the glare. Our consultant, Dale Holland with Holland Consulting Planners, that helped write these neighborhood redevelopment zone plans some years ago for the town, was recently in touch with me on another matter, and he asked me how things were going. I gave him an update, and he encouraged me to apply for an North Carolina American Association of Planners, or APA, award for the project for implementation. And he also is going to submit our names along with their company's name as potential speakers at an APA conference for this project because of the results that we're seeing and the fact that it's being done in a small town. Because some of the larger areas have been able to do this, and mainly places we've heard about before, cities like Goldsboro. But we are thankful that even the smallest of towns, if they have in mind and take a leap of faith, that we could be successful in this effort. So stay tuned.
And Elizabeth, could you just review just quickly because I think a lot of people weren't on the council then, and people that might be watching this, how we set up citizens groups and, the neighborhoods got together, and really this was sort of born out of a neighborhood sort of populist movement.
Sure, you're exactly right. So the planning process was long, and both Anne Marie and Dale have told me in the past that initially when this idea was brought up, it seemed too good to be true or hard to believe that it could really happen. But based on the work of the consultants, and they did an extreme amount of effort surveying the town and its neighborhoods to find exactly the streets that had the right of vacant houses and dilapidated houses that would qualify for your inclusion in neighborhood redevelopment zone program and allow you to use that North Carolina Gym statute, which allows local governments to acquire property in a way outside of the eminent domain process. So that statute allows for towns or cities to acquire property at fair market value without having to go through eminent domain. So just like any other interested party, the town can reach out to homeowners or building owners, property owners within these neighborhood redevelopment zones and offer them a fair market value, which means a recent appraised value for their home, and close the transaction without having to go through eminent domain, which is a lot of advertising and more effort on your part. So long story short, the consultants, after figuring out these zones, held numerous neighborhood meetings to talk with residents about what their visions were for the community. This was in conjunction with deciding where the new police station would go. And it was really the council's vision that the entire neighborhood could be revitalized. And this is one part of the process. Locating the police station on North Oakham Street, and then the county was a partner with the Boys and Girls Club at D.F. Walker, setting up those anchors for North Oakham Street. And then Cadiz Church's efforts with restoration have provided sort of the big 3 points on that side of town. And then this effort is filling in to hopefully make these neighborhoods viable and vibrant like they once were. I think that's our goal. So, sorry to be long-winded.
And anybody out there that wants to give money to Cadiz, we need it. So, for the restoration.
Well, thank you, Elizabeth, for all your hard work and for your input here. Anybody else have any questions of either Anne Marie, Sambo, or Elizabeth? Okay. If not, we'll move over to the budget amendments, and we'll turn that over to Anne Marie.
And Mayor, I am sorry, did we get a motion in a second on that resolution? I did not write it down, but I can check.
Got a motion.
Okay.
Yeah, we did.
We did,
Yeah.
okay. Then we're
But
good.
did we
I'll
vote
check.
on it?
I'll check.
Yeah, we did. We
We
voted
did
on
vote
it.
on it,
Yeah.
okay.
I'm sorry, all this
Not a problem.
technology is
No problem.
hard to manage. Okay, next item is the budget amendments, and unfortunately, when I was doing the agenda packet, I left out the airport fund budget amendment, so we'll get that at your next committee meeting. But the electric fund budget that was included in your packet calls for transferring funds that came in over revenue from electric services. Part of that was Taco Bell paying for their line extension, and then Mike Nichols doing a really good job making sure that if our system is damaged with a motor vehicle or a truck accident hits a pole, he makes sure to recover those funds. So that line item has excess money or has money in excess of what was budgeted. So Virginia prepared the budget amendment to transfer funds from that line item into the billing and collections account. We had a retirement. Darlene Carter, our longtime serving utilities account billing specialist, retired. We were fortunate enough to have her work side by side with her replacement. I think they worked together for almost 2 months, so we had higher salary and overhead costs, and then also the postage cost for mailing the notices to our customers for TTHM also required additional funding. So the recommendation is to transfer approximately $20,700 from the sale of merchandise account to the billing and collections account. And we recommend approval.
Okay. Any questions or comments on that? If not, we'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, motion carried. So you can transfer your funds. All right, at this time, we're at items considered timely and important. We have a couple of items that we feel like it is timely and important. Last week, as you all know, the country was forced to witness the corrupt killing of a black American, George Floyd, on the streets of Minneapolis. In response, the mayors of Durham and Raleigh sent out a letter to some of the mayors in North Carolina, giving them the opportunity to sign a letter condemning the murder of Mr. Floyd. Initially, many of the smaller municipalities like Edenton were not included. But by week's end, I did receive and sign on behalf of myself and this council when the letter was forwarded to all mayors by the North Carolina League of Municipalities. Now, I did catch some flack over that because I hadn't signed it, but I had not seen it. It had not come to us. Anne-Marie hadn't seen it, and neither had I. So we as a council decided to issue a statement of solidarity to be posted to our town website and Facebook page. And I will read that at this time, if I can find it. Dear citizens of Edenton, the past week we all have seen much pain, outrage, fear, and grief throughout our country in response to the horrific murder of George Floyd. The cruelty and disregard for human life displayed in that video was the result of systematic racism, proof that the biases, whether implicit or explicit, that we carry as individuals and as a society have grave consequences for black citizens. What happened to George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery were tragedies whose publicity has called attention to their regular occurrence, and we utterly condemn these unspeakable acts of violence. However, unlike most unforeseeable tragedies that we carry ourselves through by means of our faith and resiliency, these deaths exemplify why we must grow and change as a society. What has shocked and disgusted so many white citizens is a reality that our black colleagues, black friends' children, and loved ones face every day. Systematic racism and the resultant violence against black citizens must be spoken of, must be acknowledged, and must be dismantled. North Carolina mayors of small towns and large cities, including our mayor, have signed a letter pledging to make every effort within their power to fight systematic racism within our police forces, cities, in this nation, and within ourselves. We, as a governing body, collectively affirm this pledge as well. And collectively, all of us, this council and every citizen, must all work to be a better Edenton, a more equitable and just community. As an initial step, the mayor and town council pledged to establish a Human Relations Commission to assist our community in addressing issues of justice and equality, including concerns expressed to us this week and in the recent past related to the Confederate Monument. We also commit to redouble our support of Police Chief Henry King's efforts to build meaningful relationships between law enforcement and the community. As Dr. Martin Luther King so eloquently stated, the ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in moments of comfort and convenience, but where he stands at times of challenge and controversy. There are challenges in Edenton that we know will generate controversy, but all of us must be brave enough at this moment in time to recognize the need for change. And that is, that has got everyone's name attached to it, so.
Anne Marie, I'm not sure if it's necessary, but I think it would be nice for all of us to vote, collectively.
To adopt it, yeah, I
and
agree.
the minutes reflect that. Also, I'm not sure if it's done as a normal, ordinary course of our business, but I would just ask that that be attached to and made a part of our minutes.
Okay. Do we need a motion on that, I guess? All right. I got a motion and a second. All those, any more discussion on this motion? If not, all those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the motion is carried. And along those lines, I'd like to commend our police chief. He went to Fayetteville last week to meet with the family of George Floyd and actually helped move the coffin and his remains from the plane to the funeral home hearse. And I think that speaks volume for you, Chief. I really do. And it helps confirm our solidarity and what we stand for here at Edenton. So thank you very much for doing that. All right, the next item is our public comments.
Before you move, I did, under items considered timely and important.
I'm sorry.
I would like to kind of summarize what I've heard tonight and then also make another recommendation. I think one frustration that we all have, and it's certainly a personal frustration that I have, when a lot of times when we're faced with tragedy, it's easy to post things on social media. It's easy to get excited in the moment, and you end up having a lot of words, and you look up a year later and there's been no action. And I think a lot of our citizens, both white and black, share that frustration with various issues, whether racial or not, in the past. And so tonight we've read that letter of solidarity, and I think that's action. It's words, but it's also action. In that letter of solidarity, we pledged to form a Human Relations Council to discuss these types of issues, and that's action. And a third thing that came to my mind that I'd like to recommend, and I'm glad that Chief King is here, and I'd like to say how much respect I have for Chief King and the job that he does, and I'm also so thankful that he's here with us. I think he was placed with us for a reason, and I think the next couple of weeks and months are going to unfold for us what that reason was. But he and I have had a number of private conversations over the years, extending back at least a year when I was a part of the Citizens Academy last summer, about the emphasis that he places on sensitivity training, the emphasis he places on using techniques to avoid unreasonable and excessive force. And he's to be commended for that, Chief King. He's here tonight, those of you that are not here, and I thank him for being here. One thing that I think we have before us right now is an opportunity for us to seek input from our town manager and from our police chief as to what our policies and procedures are as it relates to use of force, and to make sure that we're using best practices in that regard. And so what my proposal is that the town manager and the police chief get together and at a meeting very soon give us a presentation about exactly what those practices are in regard to the use of force and what training our officers get in that regard. And we can also then ask the manager and chief, are we providing our officers all the tools that they need to attack this problem? I think it would be educational for us, and I think it would be educational for the community to know all that Chief King is doing, and we'll take the opportunity to make further recommendations if we see the room for any. And I've discussed it with Chief King, and I think he's certainly willing to do that. And I've discussed it with Town Manager Knighton, and she is willing to help facilitate that. But I think it'd be very educational for us all, and that would be some action also that we could take.
Thank you, Councilman Hine. I think that's a very good idea. I do. And Emery and I had talked about it as well, as, to invite Chief King to come before us at some meeting soon and give us the same thing that you're asking for. I think it's very, very good. And, you know, it was just out of the realm of anything you can think of other than hostility and hate. That's all it could be, you know. And,
I'll add, I called up the chief, and said how I felt like we were very blessed to have somebody with his training and his depth of knowledge, at running the police department. And I was in court today, and one of the lawyers from out of town said, I don't really know your police chief, but he really sets a good example of how a police chief ought to be. He said, I trust what he says, and I just thought that was a great thing. And I think that what you're talking about, Hack, is wonderful, because if anything else we can provide the chief that he needs to help with this type of training, then I think we have a duty to do that. And this is the time to take an action, and I think actions are more important than sometimes than anything else we can do.
absolutely. But don't swell his head too much, now he'll be asking for a raise.
We might need one.
Does anyone else have a comment?
I want to thank Anne Marie and the entire council for this statement. I think it's a very positive statement. I feel very hopeful about it, and I think the community will see it in a very positive way and a step toward the future. And I'm just very pleased to be able to sign this and be a part of the group that helped prepare it. So thank you very much for making this possible.
I will tell you that Anne Marie has spent a lot of time on that.
It's very obvious.
She's done well. Do we need to take any action on that as far as a motion or?
You already, you mean on Hack's recommendation?
Yes.
We'll handle that through the administrative committee,
Okay.
the councilman's chair, and we'll check and see on dates, but promise sooner rather than later to have it scheduled for you.
Thank you.
All right, well, if no one else has anything to bring up, that concludes our agenda for tonight, and I will entertain a motion.
Can I ask one question?
We have
before you do? If CVS buy the property that they're looking to buy, that will leave only one business in that whole shopping center out there. Is there any way we can condemn that into?
It certainly is. It's just a truck stop.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
What'll be out there? Just the Chinese?
Just a Chinese restaurant, like he said.
We condemned one. We tore one down.
Yeah.
We're still optimistic and hopeful and working on a second grocer, so
Good.
we'll stay tuned.
When Dixie,
Stay
I mean,
tuned.
not when Dixie, the food line that released that building?
We're not sure. I think things are gonna happen fairly soon, and we'll know what their plans are, so.
So there is some
That'd
hope.
be good news.
There's hope.
But Mayor, before you adjourn, we do have public comment, and we have our first live public comment
Commenter.
in several months. So I didn't know if Joe wanted to speak, but anyway, you go ahead.
Okay.
Don't
All right.
adjourn us yet until you
We
call.
do have time now for public comment. Joe, if you have something you want to say,
I actually do, and I thank you. On an issue that I think is important to the town, and it's certainly important to me. Last month, the county commissioners took a vote that effectively delayed the building of the new school, and also shut down discussion about the school. Last year, we had a meeting in this town where residents came out and strongly voiced their support for the new school and why it's important to Edenton. We know that we need the school for a while. We know that it'll help all the kids in the county, and we have to invest in our kids because they're our future. We know that it will attract a younger demographic to the town, which is important, as evidenced by the new committee that we formed, the 40 and Under Committee. It will also attract new businesses to the town to service that new demographic, that expanding demographic. And it will help our tax base by doing that. And it also helps our property values. The other thing we know is that last week, Progress Edenton put out an online petition on their Facebook page and garnered a lot of signatures for it, expressing support for the new school. I think we need more than that. I think we need your voices as the voice of the town of Edenton to weigh in on this issue. And I'd like to request that you all consider drafting a resolution that reiterates how important the school is to Edenton and why. And also asks the county commissioners to issue a new timeline for the school and create visibility around it and include discussion around it, which I think is the least they can do as elected officials for the constituents of the county. Last month, this body adopted a resolution which we sent to the governor, a good resolution. And you just adopted a wonderful resolution tonight. And what I'm asking is that you lend your voice to an issue that directly affects the future well-being and growth of our town. Thank you.
Thank you. Joe,
Thank you, Joe.
one man's opinion, okay? But I don't think we, as a body, need to do that. One man's opinion. I don't think we need to be delving into the county commissioners' decisions and business. I support everything you said, with that exception. But we wouldn't want them coming in and setting precedents with things that we have, decisions that we have made. And I don't think it's right for us to go on their side of the street. That's just one man's opinion.
May I respond to that?
Yes.
With deference. I understand what you're saying, but we, by definition, are all residents of the county. And that gives us a platform to weigh in on, I think.
Well, and I've said this before, we've had discussions about this, and I've said this before. Any person on here can make a statement or write a letter or do whatever they want to do as an individual. But I personally do not believe we need to do it as a body. I think you're disagreeing with me.
Well, this is the first that I've heard of it, and I was going to suggest that somehow we continue that conversation and allow us to digest what Joe has said to us, and certainly digest what you have said to us. I don't necessarily agree or disagree with anything right now. I think both comments are valid, and perhaps there's some more discussion, maybe if it would be at our committee meetings or something like that, the best way to approach it and have some sort of conversation about it.
I thought the next time the deadlines for the bond have been missed, so they can't even put it on I don't know, but.
And you are correct, which is why I would ask for a new timeline.
Well, if I might, and I know we don't want to debate what the commissioners have done or haven't done without all the facts, but it's my understanding that delaying the ballot vote from November 2020 to November 2022 does not change the timeline that has been agreed on, that has been planned, that has been lining up for,
That was my understanding as well.
the financial ability for the county to be able to pay the debt, to start paying the debt. So, but have no problem, the commissioners have said it hasn't changed the timeline, so we can talk to them and get information. The other thing is that the commissioners, I believe, either this week or next week, we're going to vote on adding a ballot question for November that would raise the sales tax, where the county is allowed to raise the sales tax by 0.25%. There have been 2 failed prior votes for that, but they have said, let's go ahead and try and make that a success in November so that they can be gathering and collecting more money. Anyway, I'll schedule a time at the next committee meeting and we can put out the facts and you all can discuss it.
I think that would be the best way to handle it, you know.
And I think one of the main factors that they used, or whatever terminology you want to use, was the $20 million that we were going to get from the state went away. We lost that $20 million. It just went away. And I'm not, Joe, I'm not arguing with you. I'm not disagreeing with
No,
you.
I understand.
Except for the sending the letter.
And so that's the first time hearing about that, the $20 million.
The $20 million went away. Am I correct?
I can't keep track
That's
of
what
it. I think there was a fear that it wasn't going to be in the budget.
$20 million.
Because of COVID, yeah.
And this is where their second vote to stifle discussion, where they could have let that be known. So thank you for saying that.
Yeah. And they've got some other debt that they're trying to, that they want to get rid of as well. So, you know.
Yeah, and I think, Anne Marie, I believe just a few minutes ago you proposed gathering as many facts as you could. That would educate us, and I know there's a lot of concern out in the community. I've heard the same things that Joe has. And perhaps the reasons behind it and the effect of it have not been fully explained to us sitting here and also those in the community. And those facts might help us better understand things, if not agree with it, but at least understand more of the rationale
as we move forward.
Yeah.
Well, I've been here 18 years, and I've never heard of the city by vote annexing property. You need to stay in contact or whatever you need to do with the commissioners, county commissioners. So not just raise taxes, but annex more property that's part of the city. That's one way how the city grows. But I never heard in the paper or since I've been on the board, anybody saying about annexing more property. No comment?
Well, the laws changed, I can't remember how long ago, maybe about 10 years ago. This General Assembly changed the laws and pretty much did away with municipalities' ability to annex. It is extremely, extremely difficult for us to be able to annex the way we could annex before the laws were changed. North Carolina had one of the most progressive annexation laws in the country, but that changed. I think now annexations can be initiated by property owners who want to become a part of the town, and also the town can do, under certain circumstances, satellite annexations. But it's very difficult, and you're right, we haven't talked about it because it's really been taken off the table. I can't remember the last time we had an annexation.
Was that, okay, Wharf's Landing?
It might have been Wharf's Landing.
Was that voluntary?
And it was voluntary.
That was voluntary.
Yeah. But you raise a good point. You know, we need to continue to grow. That's why we're doing the marketing. That's why we want new investment. But one of those tools isn't as valuable as it used to be. So.
A lot of times people will put it on the ballot, but the ballot, and they keep doing something until they win. But when you do nothing, you get nothing.
That's true.
Okay, any other comments?
Just a question going back to the solidarity statement. Will that appear in this week's Chowan Herald?
I will, when the meeting is over, I'll be glad to reach out to Miles and see if there's still time for...
Yeah, maybe we need to buy space in it.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, maybe we need to, you know, just buy some space. I mean, 'cause it's nice.
Yeah, and you can't buy an ad today for Thursday.
Okay, yeah.
But anyway, I'll get on the phone with Miles and see.
Yeah.
He didn't recommend
And
it. It's active.
Do we
If
have
I can
anybody?
add in really quickly to that, the Chowan Herald did just share this on Facebook, share a video on Facebook along with a complete copy of the statement.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
How about
Okay.
that?
They got the statement. Great. Okay.
Do we have anybody on Zoom that wants to make a comment or have anything they want to talk about? Anybody else up here have anything? So, if not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So,
Got a motion, need a second? Got a motion and a second. Need to adjourn. Thank you.